you seen Dorothy or ever or
Little Dora.
know her story?
They call her Dora.
Mm-hmm.
Dora Dunn from the. There's been many people seen her in the Mead Hotel.
Wow.
One story that it was even published in the Dillon paper here about 15 years ago. There was 2 busloads of Boy Scouts came to Bannack. And I was playing here at the time, but I didn't see it. Anyhow, they went down here and they were going through the Mead Hotel, and all of a sudden the 5 leaders that was with them looked at one another and said, "Where in the hell did all the kids go?" They couldn't find any of the Boy Scouts anywhere. And so they looked all over Bannack, they couldn't find a sign of them. And then they went back in the Mead Hotel, and they went back upstairs and was looking around up there, and in one of the bigger rooms up there, here was all the Boy Scouts, and they were all huddled together in one corner, just totally drenched. And they said, "What in the dickens happened to you guys?" "Well, this little girl came up to us and wanted to show us something down at the creek, so we followed her down there. She fell in the water and disappeared. We all jumped in and was trying to get her out, but we couldn't find her."
Wow.
That was printed in the Dillon paper.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And just 2 weeks ago, now there's a house on this side of the street way at the end. It's a 2-story house. It was called the Bassett House. It was used as a hospital for children in the 1800s that had children dying of diphtheria and cholera. Now, Bannack had a problem because when they moved in here, everybody was dipping their water out of the creek. And they had outhouses all up and down the creek. And so the outhouses were leaking into the creek, and it was giving all the kids cholera. Well, there was 75, they told me, 75 children died in that house. They call it the crying baby house. And a lot of people say they hear crying babies, but 2 weeks ago, a lady come running in here and she says, "What the hell was that house down at the end of the street?" I says, "The 2-story one?" She said, "Yes." She said, "I went in there and the vibes was just bad all over the place." She said, "I was just standing there and all of a sudden a woman in a green dress came right out of the wall, hit me in the butt with a broom and said, 'Get the hell out of my house.'"
Oh my goodness.
So there are instances when people, my father always said there's no such thing as ghosts, only people with haunted minds. But I disagree with him because I even have a gift for one.
You do?
Told me where I could find his pouch of what he called it was gold, but in 1860, when people referred to the gold, it necessarily didn't mean gold. It meant their monetary value.
Okay.
And I looked where he told me to look, and I found it, and I still have it at home.
Oh my
It looked like her copper. They're handmade coins about this big around.
Wow.
Some had X, some had T, and some had O on it, and there was quite a few in there in a pouch about this big and about that high.
Nice.
All sewn around the side with rawhide.
Wow.
Anyhow, I took them to a coin shop in Denver, Colorado, and asked them if they knew what the heck they were, and they said they went in the back and was working on their computers, but when they come back out, they said, "We found out these were manufactured by employees of the Ajax Mining Corporation in the 1860s.
Oh.
The ones with X were worth $10 at the company store, the ones with T were worth $20 at the company store, and the ones with O were worth $5 at the company store." He said, "Could we melt down a few of them and see just what the metalling content is?" And I says, "No more than 5 coins because I want to keep them." So he said, we'll give you $700 for it, but I wouldn't sell it." So they melted, I came home and they melted down 5 coins, and then they called me back and they said, "We did the analysis on it. They're 80% copper, 5% nickel, 5% aluminum, 5% silver, and 5% gold." He says, "We'll give you $900 for it." And I says, "I don't want to sell it. Would you please return it to me insured so nothing happens to it?" And they did. But
Wow.
the guy that gave it to me told me his name was Samuel Hans Guke. And he told me, "Do you want my gold?"
Oh.
And I says, "Don't you want your gold?" And he says, "I have no need for the gold. I'm one of the miners in the mountain." I didn't know what he was talking about.
Oh.
So I went into the county clerk and recorders one day, and I asked them if they could check and see if there was any accident reports showing anybody getting killed. And she said, "Jay, Beaverhead County's only been a county since 1891. But she said, "I've got a bunch of film strips they sent me from Helena that was records from our area earlier than that.
Uh-huh.
She says, what are you looking for? And I says, anything that showed a mining accident at the Yonke Lake mine. That would have been up here in the mountains, not right here in Bannack.
Oh, okay.
But anyhow, she got to looking through these film strips. She put them in a viewfinder and was cranking it around. And all of a sudden she said, oh, whoa, is this what you're looking for? Well, it was an accident report filed August 20th, 1868. There was 9 miners killed at the Ajax mine at Yonke Lake.
Oh, no kidding.
And the third name on the list was Samuel Huntz, who came from Heidelberg, Germany.
Oh
Wow.
my goodness.
So people can tell me there isn't ghosts, but I have a theory about it. I believe if you are a strong believer in the good Lord and give him the honor and respect he's due, you're going to go to heaven when it's over with. But if you're going to be a rebel and say he doesn't exist, when your life is over, he just cuts you free and lets your spirit go wherever he wants, because he creates permanent life. He doesn't create just 20 years.
Yep.
Yep. Wow.
I've had too many experiences, but
Well, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
if you have any on, was played at the party the night they hung Ned Ray, Buck Stinson, and Henry Plummer. There's so many gross things that's happened in this town, but it's also had a lot of good people in it. Dr. Ryburn himself owned this house. He came here in 1880 and lived here till 1917. Nobody knows for sure because they didn't have the medical tests and stuff then that they do now. But they think he developed a brain tumor, for he lost his eyesight and his hearing.
Oh, wow.
So they moved to Dillon in 1927. His son was teaching at Western Montana College. But his wife came home from work in 1927, and he was slumped over a desk with a pistol in his hand. And but Dr. Ryburn was a really good country doctor, but if he didn't fit into what he thought society should function as, he got people together 3 times in Bannack's past and tarred and feathered 3 different individuals that weren't fitting into the way he thought society should function. And I've had an experience with his spirit here too.
Oh.
I was playing here last November 4th when all of a sudden there was nobody here in Bannack. There was 5 deer out here on the sidewalk watching me play.
Right.
But all of a sudden I started singing How Great Thou Art to the Good Lord. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this card fell on my head. Well, it was made in 1860. And the funny part of it is that was my mother's maiden name.
Huh.
And her family came from London in the 1850s and 60s. But I didn't know what it was. And then I opened it up to look inside of it, and it had this really stringy looking gross thing inside of it. Well, I didn't pay any attention to it, but 2 days later, a friend of mine who's a Pentecostal preacher in Idaho between Salmon and Ledor, she's a very, I don't know what you'd call it. I think she's very gifted. A lot of people say she's just crazy. But she'll be talking to her out here on the street, and she falls in the street and starts talking in Aramaic. And then when she comes around, I says, Bonnie, what happened? And she says, when you get a call from up there, you got to answer. But anyhow, she called me 2 days after this happened, and she says, don't let the witch's curse Dr. Ryburn put on you in Bannack the other day bother you. And I says, witch's curse? What was that? She said, didn't you get a card with your mother's maiden name on it? And it has an umbilical cord from the 1860s inside.
No way.
It was to cut me off from society for eternity.
Wow.
But I'm just going to ask the good Lord. She said, don't worry about it.